Okay. Okay, hi, this is Kim Weeks with Weeks Well, and I'm in a follow-up conversation to Yoga Lineages with Yoga Alliance with Swami Asokananda of Integral Yoga. It's great to see you. And we're just riffing here for 30, 40 minutes, so like I am with all the other lineage heads. In some cases, we're talking before the event and after. In the cases like with Swami Asokananda, we figured out how great it was to talk to each other after the fact or as we were preparing. So we're going to start with 3 Ohms as per the integral yoga tradition and the way Swami Asokananda likes to roll, which I love. I'm going to mute myself and then we'll start talking.
Okay. Sitting comfortably. Observe the breath. Inhaling. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. It's good to be with you again, Tim. Thank you for having this follow-up talk.
Yeah, I'm so glad we're here. It's great to see you again. It really is. It's so great. So the thing that we're sort of doing here is, I was just talking to Keno McGregor yesterday about how these like baseline 101s, these introductions to the lineage create all these other conversations, these kind of spawn conversations, questions that the students have, the attendees to these sessions and emails I get and on, social media. And I mean, I almost think we ought to just like start with the prana. Why not talk about, why not let prana rule our conversation? And one of the most interesting parts about our talk was what I heard you saying about accessing prana in the practice, such as it is. So let's talk about, like, I don't know, why do we practice just to access prana, or what is the value of prana in the practice, especially as you and integral yoga see it?
I do feel that we want to move away from asana practice as just another form of physical fitness. So we have to look at how is it different. I mean, it does. I think it is a great means of physical fitness. I don't do much else for physical fitness except asana and pranayama. But if I stop there and make asana just about the physical body, then I think I've lost a good part of what they have to offer. So I began, I guess, as my own practice, as my own being started feeling more subtle things. I started feeling that the asana practice could be an access to get more stabilized in this subtle aspect of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think the meditation, I think if you combine hatha yoga with meditation, this type of shift to a more subtle way of practicing asana is a natural evolution.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we know that there's the body, there's a mind, and there's a link between the two, and that the yogis consider to be the prana.
Mm.
And if I want to get to deeper aspects of my inner being, then the prana is the portal that I go through. I want to go even past the prana. I don't want to, even the prana is one of the koshas, one of the bodies that make up me. But I think to get beyond what makes up my current me, I have to go through the pranic level.
Mhm.
And the pranic level can lead me to a reality that is more essential to my true nature. So I think that working with prana and the asanas is a key to using the asanas for the purpose that Patanjali gave us the asanas, why it's the third limb. It's to lead us to the eighth limb of samadhi. And so I practice the third limb asana to get to that eighth limb samadhi. And I feel that, I may have said this in our original talk, I feel that if I can access the prana while I'm doing the physical posture, then I can let the prana align the physical level, rather than me putting the physical level in a way that I hope will align the prana. I actually let the prana take the lead. And then something beautiful unfolds. I've been doing this for over 50 years now, and I still have as much interest, like this morning's practice, which is as much interesting to me as when I was 19 and exploring this, And I think that's because it's every practice can be like a revelation if you know how to tune into more subtle levels.
I want that. It's so funny. It's just so funny how these things happen. I just taught a class 2-3 hours ago, and we were centering. And, I generally have an idea of how I'm going to start the class. I always have an idea of what I'm going to teach, but I really let, perhaps in an analogous way, what I'm going to teach lead me to know how to say and to start the class. But as I started the class just today, I said, let the breath do the aligning. I was thinking about the word alignment, and I'm just a little bit today obsessed with the idea that alignment sounds even like it sounds so concretized, but alignment, implies that it's just that this moment by moment experience.
That's so beautiful to soften the understanding of what alignment means. I love that.
Yeah, totally. And that's exactly and I totally relate to what you were saying about the practice always being so new. And I wonder, I don't know how to embed this question, but and maybe there's nothing else to say actually, is that the prana takes the lead, is that instead of putting yourself into a shape and waiting in this, not so much a passive way, because you do need to be both passive and assertive in your practice. So let's talk maybe a little bit about that, because what I was about to say is like, if you're passively waiting for the prana to do something, it is like waiting for Godot. You're just going to wait forever but then if you touch that piece of yourself, like I'm not sure if it's necessarily Iyengar, but in the Iyengar tradition, we talk about, a lot of yogis talk about the apana vayu and how you want to reduce that and minimize that and get rid of that wasting energy, and then that like really brings up the prana. There's this inverted relationship, inversely correlative. The less apana, the more prana. Is that how you understand it? And do you think about those things when you practice?
I find that thinking gets in the way.
Yes. That way of asking. Yeah, that was not the way I wanted to pose it. Is that the way you do your practice?
Yeah. I would say I'm sitting there waiting for the prana to guide me. I'm relaxing. I'm becoming as quiet as possible. Mm-hmm. And the prana is always there. It's always ready to have an interaction with us. And it is always interacting with us. We just have to tune into it. I'm going to say something else.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
I think.
What I wanted to say was, before we started the recording, he said, in my master class, I did poses that you hadn't recognized in Indigo yoga. And so I think that's one thing, is that as I'm in an asana, I just see where the energy wants to go next. what's the night? It's not exactly choreography. But it's listening to how the energy wants to flow next, and then responding to that. And then if it seems right, sharing that with my students. Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's as a longtime teacher. I mean, you put the quote into masterclass. So let's pin that and get back to the word masterclass or the phrase, what that means. But if you've been doing this for over 50 years, I mean, how many practices is that in which you have experimented? Like how many millions of yogis before you to see what does happen next when you follow the energy in that direction. So how have you, is it just trial and error over the years? Is it a huge influence from Swami Satchidananda, obviously, to help you trust that following that then leads you to be able to teach your students? Tell me about that flow.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly it's both. I learned the core essential way of practicing Hatha Yoga by how Swami Satchidananda introduced it. And then, he kept giving us and me the freedom to, okay, now you see what you learned from the practice. So it's both taking the tradition, but what you've focused on, the lineage, how does the lineage teach it? And then like alignment, it shouldn't be a cemented thing, a rigid thing. A lineage has to also evolve. As long as you understand the core values of the lineage, then you're expected to keep moving forward with that.
Yes.
So it's both taking what I learned from my teacher and then feeling free to, trial and error is a good way to put it. I try something, I say, oh, no, that's not it. At least not today. And then discovering what works for me and see if it works for others.
Well, it's kind of like you said in the beginning. Did I cut you off?
No, you didn't.
Okay. It's kind of like you were saying about being so absorbed in your practice this morning. Like I know when, I don't know, I've maybe taken a couple of choices in my practice that leads me down some path that isn't working because I find that I'm distracted or my emotional state is sort of agitated or distracted or agitated, I think is maybe the best two words I could come up with.
Okay.
But then on the other hand, you take these choices and 2 hours goes by. I mean, as a sort of working mother, it's a little hard for me sometimes to have that much freedom, but if and when I have it, or when I really can have the discipline to carve that out, I never have a practice I think I'm going to have. Do you? I mean, do you ever think like, I'm going to practice exactly like this? And then do you end up the way you think you've started?
I tend to like to have something like you're saying about your classes, you know what you're going to do. I tend to start off knowing what I'm going to do. And then it's something like jazz, okay, I know the theme, and let's see how we're going to play up the theme, So
yeah.
I have a lot of variety in my practice, but I kind of go into each morning practice with a sense of what I'm going to do. And then I let it flow from there. Does that make sense?
It completely makes sense. Yeah, exactly. No, it totally. I think, yes, exactly. I was just say a little bit more about my practice, but we're here to talk about you. And so, okay, so I want to get back to Swami Satchidananda, because this might actually get us also back to this, referencing that conversation we had in email about masterclass, like organic food, natural food, that kind of thing. We'll get there in just a second, but I want to ask about Swami Satchidananda and how did he do it when he would say to you, okay, I'm teaching you these, what? Did he teach you postures or principles or both? and then how did he instruct you to go trust yourself and experiment on your own? Like, what did that look like as a parampara?
Mhm.
As a transmission, by the way, for those watching, we're going to have this in the notes, the translations of some, but as a transmission.
Yeah. I mean, I would watch him teach. He didn't teach a lot of Hatha yoga, but I would watch him teach Hatha yoga. I was sometimes a monitor, adjusting people when he was teaching. And I saw the playfulness. And even when he did a formal integral yoga class, we had to kind of rein him in. No, Gurudev, we don't do it this way. He wanted to be more playful. But when I would come to him with questions about how things should be done, that was always an interesting thing for me.
Yeah.
But sometimes he'd get down on the floor and try it himself and try to understand exactly what I was asking. But inevitably, almost every time he would say, it can be done this way or that way. Occasionally he would say, I recommend this. And occasionally, if I tried to make it too complicated, he said, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Particularly pranayama. I read some books on pranayama. I said, I want to introduce all these things. He said, you don't need to do all those things to pranayama. You have a few key practices. I wanted, my mind is a little bit rajasic. It's a little bit active. I like variety. I like new things. And he kept encouraging me to, you don't need to overload yourself with excitement. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but
definitely.
Yeah, that's what I picked up from him. Playfulness, lack of rigidity, keeping it simple. Don't make these postures into something that's sacred and you can't change how they're done.
That's so, yeah. I mean, it makes me think that about the guru teacher relationship or the guru shishya relationship. It's a very fraught conversation right now. There's a lot of people who are saying we're in a post guru age and there's no way there can be a guru, and you are your own guru, which I fundamentally understand and embrace as a teaching, because in my case, practicing for years and years, I would be in my practice and I would think, what would my teacher say about this? What would my teacher say about that? I would be, I believe, channeling that teacher, and that energy was being channeled into me until eventually it kind of just blends into your own decisions and your own choices, especially if you're a teacher, because then you've really got to trust your own voice. So when
you express that so beautifully, I love how you're channeling someone seems to be outside of yourself until it's your own, and then you're still following tradition in your own way. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And at least for me, the only way I could do that was in feeling completely safe, in that teacher-student relationship, no boundaries have been crossed and all of these sort of troubled things that many lineages are having to confront right now. I mean, I've been very, very lucky to always have had very safe, boundaried, relationships in that case. But it makes me think about this conversation that we were having about what constitutes a master class, and what I guess the thing I'm getting at, or I'm wondering about, is how do we, and I'm saying you and I in this conversation, and maybe in the spirit of lineages, which is what brought us together to talk in the first place. How do we talk about the meaning of an expert-led class, a class where, if you were to make an analogy to music, it would be a musician, who'd been playing for so many years and had practiced, how many thousands of hours, and was bringing that to bear to the class and to the students. Like, what is it? Just that's more potent information, more absorptive, or how can we tell people what an expert yoga class looks like, feels like, is?
Yeah. Yeah. There's no gradations like brown belt, black belt. Okay. Now he can, this is a master
It's
belt
true.
class. Yeah. So, it's like the word guru, no real guru calls himself a guru. The student calls the teacher, you're my guru. And the same thing, I think no one should say, I'm teaching a master class. Someone else should say, that was a master class, So that's why I put in quotes, because it's just a class that I enjoy teaching, Someone else might say, wow, he has a lot of experience. He shared all those decades of work, and I would call it a master class. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, sometimes I teach in different places and they say, Swami Asokananda teaching a master class. And I say, okay, for publicity, they have to call it a master class.
I can definitely say, for the record, I will say your class was a master class. It was so amazing. So anyway, for the record, for this recording.
Yeah. So, I think the most we can say in the yoga world is that this is a class taught by someone who's very experienced, who has gone very deep in their own practice. And he's going to share with you what he's learned in his practice. We do have, Yoga Lineages has, 200 hour, 500 hour, EY 500 hour, so they're creating some delineation of people with more experience. If we wanted to somehow create that, maybe only people who are the ERY 500 should be called a master class. I don't know about that. I'm not recommending that, but
yeah.
How would you, if you really wanted to say who is the right to use the word master class, I'm not sure how we would determine that.
It's definitely, I don't know that there's a real answer, and I'm certainly, just interested in the exchange around it, because I think it's like Kino and I were saying yesterday, she was saying she notices, and it was, sort of responding to some things I was saying to her as we're getting prepared for the Ashtanga talk.
Where is that? Kino
McGregor, of Ashtanga. She's coming in November.
Okay.
And it was a little bit I wonder how much of social media is reality. Because if I were 25 and I just sort of put in the hashtag yoga into Instagram and followed it and just looked at it to say, okay, I'm going to teach myself right now, or I just would like to learn a little bit of it. Maybe people don't go to Instagram to learn, and maybe that's the problem maybe that's the sort of false equivalent that I'm setting up, maybe they're just going to consume that image, their eyes are just consuming the image, and then they swipe left or swipe up, and they've moved on. So I'm actually helping myself in asking this question, because I am so dispirited when I go there, because I see a lot of skin. I see things that I have never recognized before as a yoga pose. Nobody's ever taught me in any lineage that I know of that's a pose. It's more like,
acrobatics.
Just salacious. Stuff. And I just think this is so foreign, so other than, so outside of anything I've ever even experienced myself in yoga. It feels like an intrusion, like an invasion, and I don't know how to handle it necessarily, other than to just keep having conversations like this one, so that these things can be amplified and people can see and know that there are so many people out there who are bringing. I was thinking when you were talking about, like, you're not going to call yourself a master teacher, but if somebody else can say, well, he's taught for this number of hours, and which means this number of practices, which means, or whatever, been exposed to these people. In my mind, I was thinking the law of averages, ultimately, like, banks in your favor. Like, eventually you're going to bump into a good idea if you just try things over and over and over again. That's definitely been my practice. Like,
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know. I'm not quite sure what my question was there. Do you have any thoughts to what I was saying?
Yeah, I think we can agree, Kim, that a masterclass isn't based on how many likes you have on Facebook or Instagram. That's not a way of assessing a person's capacity to teach a masterclass. I mean, you've been teaching for a long time. I think what you're doing, you're such a sincere student of yoga, first of all, and then trying to share from your heart. I don't see why what you're doing couldn't be called a master class. You said you taught this morning. You taught a class this morning. Yeah. I have a feeling some of your students would say, "Wow, that's yoga. That's what I came for. I'm learning from the right person."
I guess learning. Yeah, maybe that's it. But I'm like you. I would never let them call me. I mean, I would, if they did call me that, I would just sort of hide my head. I would say, no, I'm just here. I said that in my first integral yoga class, my very first one, right after my training in 2002. I said to the people in my class, like, it's just a stroke of fate that has put me here and you there. And
I love
that. We're just learning here together. Yes, I've learned some language that I'm going to give you, but your ears have to be open to it, and my voice has to be something that you can hear, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Let's own together,
Yeah. I do think that that's one of the qualities of masterclass is the humbleness of the teacher and the respect the teacher has for the people coming to the class. I don't want to call them the students, the people coming to share yoga with you. You have so much respect for them. And even no matter, how much money you're making from teaching, I feel you are, and I try to teach. It's a karma yoga experience. I'm teaching the joy, the reward is the act of teaching. It's not anything that comes after. That's what the definition of karma yoga. The act of teaching is my nourishment, my fulfillment. If I can do that teaching yoga, then maybe I can do that as I move about the rest of my life. So I think those are some of the signs of a master class. I think the minimizing of that you're the master. You're minimizing the authoritarian aspect that I have the power and I'm the master and you're going to learn from me. I think it's really shifting the power to I'm going to speak and you listen to your body, and that's the master.
Right.
Over my words, your body's messages are the master. That's the primary teacher in this class. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that's one of the reasons why, actually, I have to say, going back to your class, one of the things that was so remarkable about it, and also, by the way, has been the case across all of the classes. Every one of the classes that have been in the Lineage series have had so much silence. To give the students the opportunity to listen to themselves.
It's so crucial. I mean, some teachers naturally talk more. Okay, that's their style. But to have a good balance between giving information and letting information come from within the student through silence is so important.
Oh, are you there? Hang on one second. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are teachers who their style and their nature is to be more talkative, and I accept that. But I do think that, we normally think that learning is taking place when I'm telling them something. Now I'm teaching, but we're really also teaching when we keep quiet. Where we're encouraging learning maybe even more when we shut up and let people feel what's happening. So I think it is important for every teacher to find their balance in the information silence ratio. And I think most of us have to be okay with a little more silence in the class. As long as we're not leaving the students floundering, not knowing what to do, you sensitize them. They'll feel, what are you experiencing? You guide them a little bit and then let them tune into that.
Totally. I mean,
yeah. And these are all things that I think are a master class, encouraging satya, encouraging, particularly if they're going to a more advanced class, that they may feel that they have to do things that their body shouldn't be doing. And a master teacher will really encourage the class. No, it's more advanced to be where you're at, to feel where you're at, pay attention to that, and work from there, rather than to look at someone else or to push yourself in a way that doesn't work. So I think these are all signs of someone who's experienced teaching, who is expert at leading students to expressing their full potential. And even things like, you can adjust the student, but if you can help them to self-adjust by paying attention, then you're really guiding them to how to find their own yoga.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, oh my God, I remember being in the basement of maybe I'm not sure are you on 13th Street right now?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I was on, in the basement of 13th Street in one of my first yoga classes, and I did a standing forward fold. I have no idea who the teacher was. And, the teacher hadn't noticed me until that pose, because I was really struggling in that pose. It was obvious that I was judging myself. I was of course looking at the person next to me. It was face planted on their shins, and I was rounded over. And I remember that person running over to me and really trying to help me just accept and relax and be, and do a little more, but more was letting go. That's what it was.
If you want to go deeper, don't push, let go more. Yeah.
Let go more. It's totally.
More tha, less ha, more surrender and less aggression. Yeah.
More surrender, less. Can you say that again?
More tha in the hatha yoga. Tha is the relaxing or surrendering part. Ha is the effort part. So if you want to go deeper in an asana, pay attention to the tha, and that may lead you deeper into the posture.
Let's actually talk about hatha yoga, because that conversation that actually has come up several times, in particular with it will come up again for sure in a couple days when we talk to Atmaram of Shivananda. And it also came up in Iyengar Yoga, which is, what is hatha yoga? How do you differ? In the modern world, hatha yoga has been, sort of made as the other to vinyasa. You've got vinyasa and you've got hatha. You've got this flow-based practice and you've got this lower-based practice. But I don't think that's right. And I think we have an opportunity to really talk about hatha yoga as you just described. Help me understand what hatha yoga is from your point of view, including why in yoga asana there's more tha and less ha. Why not? Why isn't it the reverse? Tell us about that.
Yeah, we had to start from the last question. I mean, some people may need more ha. Maybe they're just kind of lying there. The word in Sanskrit is tamasic. They're kind of dull, and they need to put out some energy. So everyone has to decide that balance of how much effort, how much surrender is needed. My understanding is that the definition of Hatha Yoga is asana, bandha, kriya, mudras, and pranayama.
Mhm.
In the 8-limb system of Patanjali, it would be asana and pranayama, third and fourth limb. So anything you're doing around asanas and pranayama is Hatha Yoga. And then I think you're talking about styles more than anything else. So there's the flowing style, you can call it vinyasa or Viniyoga. There's the more static styles, yin. But the raw Hatha Yoga, the core is Hatha Yoga. So I don't know how it came that some schools say vinyasa class at 9 o'clock, Hatha Yoga class at 10 o'clock.
Right.
I don't know where that distinction came in, and I'm not sure that's the best thing either.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little unfortunate because it causes confusion, and it has caused people to ask us in the lineage series, can the Iyengar people tell us, like, how is Iyengar different from Hatha Yoga? And so I posed that question, and in typical Iyengarese, we found ourselves in a very detailed, kind of analysis of, of the meaning of Hatha Yoga, and not and kind of like meta or aside from what Iyengar yoga is. In fact, it was more of an answer on what Prashant Iyengar believes now is one of the errors of, the Iyengar system. But in any event, I love the way you describe Hatha Yoga as having those 5 components, because that my understanding is that it comes from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, is that we most like kind of directly and linearly, speaking of lineage, point to Hatha Yoga to that, and that's how that book is separated out. That's how it's described in those 5 ways.
Yeah, it didn't divide things into vinyasa, yin, restorative, and it gave only like 12 asanas. It didn't give and very simply described, Actually, it's interesting because it's 2/3 of the book is about pranayama.
Yeah.
So, and in those days, it's like 600 years ago, asana was more a preparation for the rigors of pranayama.
Right.
You were getting enough like nerve strength to carry more current so that when you moved into pranayama, you could do so safely.
Yeah.
We turned it on its head. We made asana the main thing. You may not even learn pranayama in a yoga class anymore, But pranayama was originally in Hatha Pradipika the main course. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And even then, we should remember that he starts off by saying, the author, Swami Rama, he starts off by saying, the only reason you're going to learn Hatha Yoga is to reach the end of Raja Yoga. Don't even call it yoga if you're not doing it for that purpose.
Right.
It's just samadhi, So he's very clear that these limbs are limbs of a ladder. You don't want to take away the limbs. It's hard to climb the ladder. But if you stop there, then you haven't understood the purpose of the ladder.
Right. And you're in a kind of weirdly precipitous place if you're on the middle of the ladder. And what are you going to do? There's no movement there. You're in the middle of the ladder. There's it's not. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Hopefully, most people, I find at our classes, that if they get stuck on the ladder, something awakens in them. They say, I think there's another limb here. Oh yeah, the 5th limb, pratyahara. They start, or they hear some chanting and say, oh, I like that chanting. What's that? What's that about? Or I see that. The physical postures are helping to release stress, but it's not enough. I need something more. Tell me about meditation. So hopefully, it's the asanas are a doorway to something deeper.
Yeah, I mean, and it's well, and of course we were going to talk about this. Do you have a few more minutes? Are we good?
few more minutes, yeah.
More minutes. Yeah, maybe we can just close out by talking a little bit about, and your last email to me was about asana and pranayama being just two of the 8 limbs as taught by, Patanjali Sutras, and not for nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened actually. I'd love to see Amazon's like sales of Swami Satchidananda's sutras, because I do know there have been others that have kind of much more boiled down translations, but I don't know how I would be practicing today if I hadn't been exposed to his sutras first. So just not for nothing. I hope everybody who's, in fact, we'll put the book obviously in the show notes, but I would love a revival of, like, I don't know if there is a revival of his teachings of the sutras. So anyway, Swami Satchidananda's, Yoga Sutras are, they're just epic. They're so central to, I think, an authentic, transmissive, teaching of modern day yoga. Thank goodness for that book. So let's talk about like these 8 limbs that are at the core of the sutras.
Yeah. I don't know, some karma or good luck. When I got introduced to yoga in this birth, I think I maybe had some introduction previously to become a Swami so young, but in this birth, something pulled me in the right direction to find a lineage that understood that there's a higher goal for human birth. And there's a fairly established means to move in that direction. And Sri Patanjali did delineate that in such a beautiful way. And I like the idea that first you basically have to get clear about your intention and start acting in the right way. Yama niyama. Why am I in this human birth? How can I behave in a way that really justifies me being called a Homo sapien, a wise person? Because by you get to the 3rd limb, asana, and particularly even the 4th limb, as we're saying, you're going to become a powerful person. It's going to awaken your inner energy. If you don't have that purity of intention and heart, that added energy is going to be a nuisance to others and probably to you also. So it is important that as you go deeper into asana, that you make sure that you understand these first 2 limbs of the 8 limb system. And I think it also will really help you to practice asana as well. If you practice, as we said, with satya, with truthfulness, with ahimsa, not harming, with contentment, with brahmacharya, using your energy properly. I think the yamas and yamas will also guide you how to practice asanas and pranayama.
Totally.
And then I think, hopefully the asana practice does lead it to an interest in the pranayama. And the pranayama, I like what Patanjali says about the benefit of pranayama. It removes the veil that covers the inner light. So the clouds start to disperse, and then there's a natural indrawn movement. And that's what you call pratyahara, the fifth limb. So I think pranayama will naturally, normally we're being pulled out, the senses, the mind are drawing out. Pranayama will help to shift that so that I begin to explore within myself. And even my outer experience, I'm watching how it's impacting, how my own inner experience is impacting my outer experience.
Yeah.
And then you begin to try to focus the mind, dharana. You see how difficult that is. The mind is so restless. It doesn't want to stay still. So it's a big project to steady the mind. But occasionally you'll get that place where it's just, and then you're in dhyana meditation. Yeah. And then if you're patient, if you're sincere, if you're steady, that may slip into this superconscious state called samadhi.
Yeah. which
So,
thankfully
what's
Patanjali,
that?
well, I was going to say, which thankfully, as I've learned studying the sutras from also now more latterly, Mr. Iyengar's approach, samadhi is split out in so many different ways. Asam prajnata samadhi, and
Yeah.
the seedless samadhi, the seeded samadhi. There's a lot of different ones, which is
Yeah.
fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. But let's just say that you'll get a better understanding of who you are. You don't have to make it too complicated, but you'll get to see yourself without the distortion of your conditioning telling you who you are. Yeah.
Can you say that one more time? That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, and as we move into meditation and move beyond meditation to what we consider samadhi, you get to begin to see yourself as you are without the veil of the conditioned mind filtering that.
Yeah. The distortions, I think you said, of your something. Didn't you say that? I don't know. That's what I heard. I thought I heard you say it like you see, yourself for who you are without the distortions of the external experience.
Yeah, that you said it better than I did. Yeah,
I think that's what you did say. Well,
Yeah.
On that note, such a delight as usual to be with you. This is Swami Asokananda, and of course I wanted to ask all these questions about integral yoga, but I feel like you've said it all, and you've said so much about what has been this practice for you. So I hope that this continues to, spread information and the love and the light that's coming from you and from integral yoga. It's just been so
Thank
great.
you. You're so good at what you do, Kim. You make it so easy for the person on this side of the camera to relax and to interact with you. So
I'm so glad.
Keep going. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I will. I'm just so interested. I can't stop it. I got 50 more questions. All right, I'm going to press stop now, and then.
Okay.
Okay, I'll stop.
Um,
Okay.